Hello friends, welcome once again to the Panel Jumper LITE. My name is Ben, with me as always is the Panel Jumper himself, Mr. Cole Hornaday. Hey Cole.
Hey, Ben.
And our guest today is an Eisner Award nominee. You've seen his work in Mad Magazine. The second volume of The Fang is out now. Our guest today is Marc J Palm. Hello, Marc. Nice to have you back on the show.
Oh, nice to be here. Thank you very much.
We looked to Mark back in the before times when I was caught in a lurch and needing a guest for the Panel Jumper Live, and you were recommended to me, and I reached out to you, and you're like, oh gosh, I can't do it, but I still want to come play. And so Mark did join us on the Perfect Amount podcast, and we had a wonderful time, and he quickly became one of my favorite local creators. So Mark, you just dropped part 2 of your Fang series. Here's part 1. This one called Weekend at Medusa's, which you have there in front of the camera. Let me just read the little blurb here you sent us on the tear sheet. The Fang Weekend at Medusa's is a whole weekend of wicked who's who before her life was all fun and profits. Now, after receiving a hallucinogenic snake bite, famed monster hunter the Fang experiences a psychedelic nightmare. Her compatriots, the Hashtag and Weed Witch, dispense scaly insight to help unravel these twisted visions. The Fang is sent on a journey of mythologically epic manipulation and slippery self-awareness. So one of the things I never got to ask you last time we had you on the podcast was, where did the inspiration for the Fang come from? Because she's a Muppet monster slayer. I mean, you leaned into the Muppet imagery and also the silly, the grotesque, and the exceedingly perverse, and that's why I love it. So tell us, how did you come up with the Fang?
Well, I came up with her as originally I was doing some like a little Instagram poster for a comedy series, and they always had like different comedians, and they'd seen me do like Muppet characters in the past, and that kind of came from when I did this a record cover version of Robert Crumb's Cheap Thrills cover. And it was for art show here in Seattle called Muppets Rock, and you're supposed to recreate a cover with Muppets. So I took it upon myself to do that one. I hadn't seen anybody else do it. Thought, if I don't do it as well as I can, someone's going to half-ass it and it's going to look like shit. So I wanted to do a really good job, and I felt I could. So I did that. And something in that, I mean, I had always loved the Muppets my entire life. I thought Jim Henson was like my hero in a way of just like improving yourself and doing something greater all the time. So I did that, but in that process, I couldn't stop drawing people Muppetly, like with the certain eyes and the mouths. I thought, why not lean into that? Other people, they get inspiration from The Simpsons or Garfield on how to draw eyes or whatever else. Like, why can't I do it as, Muppets? And then, like another inspiration is Jack Davis, and he did a lot of those Muppets or Sesame Street books.
Right.
So that kind of bleeds over too. So I was doing these females as Muppets for comedy shows and whatnot, and I just ended up like drawing a character who had like those wax fangs that you kind of like for Halloween, which had as like on the top of her outfit as like a whole dress.
Right.
And I thought that was kind of funny. Gave her a gun. I was like, all right, this is a vampire who just kills other monsters because she thinks she's cool enough and badass enough that, well, I can take on other monsters. Humans are boring to me. So she hunts them for fun and profit. I've put it in there. She drinks their blood. I don't really know the answer why she drinks the blood, but it's exotic. It's a new flavor that you can't get anywhere else.
So those who've had the benefit of reading the first one, it's a really fun little book, but it asks more questions than it answers. It asks a lot of questions about who is she, or at least there are questions that pop up in my mind. It's not like there's a tear sheet within. It's like, here are discussion questions for the Fang. That's not what I mean. What I mean is just within the subtext of the storytelling is happening. It started asking me questions, which made me want more. So I was very pleased when I saw that you had put together Weekend at Medusa's, and that was in the pipeline. But Weekend at Medusa's is clearly going to be part of a multi-part storyline, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I know the idea of comic fall off. So issue 1, you sell this many. Issue 2, you sell less, exponentially. Right. Unfortunately, with a lot of things like that. But so I wanted to keep things episodic. But this second one just led to answering some questions, or actually, if you were frustrated with the first one, you're going to be really frustrated with this one, because it's my it's goofy, but it's my Empire Strikes Back. So it's like you get a lot more like, oh shit, what's this going to be? And who's that? So I definitely, it's going to have to be longer now. I'm thinking 3 at the least, just to kind of pull some things in. And I don't really like number zeros or origin stories or trilogy preview things or whatever, prequels. And that stuff just kind of annoys me because there's too many answers. Like, here's all this stuff. It's for people who can't handle just loose ends. Right. Everything's got to be nice and tidy and resolved. And yeah. I'm not that way, and I appreciate stuff that leaves me asking, "Wow, what's this? Who's that?"
Well, I wasn't annoyed at all. I think it's more like I appreciate the fact that the world was more fleshed out. So now I knew I got a better idea of how she fit into the culture in which she lives, the people that she hangs out with. It's just it's very brass tacks with the first one. It's very fleshed out. And then there's meat on the bones in the second one. So I'm really excited about what's going to be happening in the third one. I'm a little bit sad if you don't go further, because
gotta go.
There's so much I love about this book. And one of the things I got to tell you that I love is this format. What made you choose this little pocketbook style format like this?
It's, for myself, it's satisfying. Like, it's just a good size. And it's, I get them cheaply printed through lulu.com. And so one of the major things I'm sure they still publish most of is paperback books. And, it's a small, cheap press kind of thing, the same kind of stuff you see at Goodwill or bookstores or whatever. So I wanted that feel. I mean, if I could go cheaper and have the paper really pulpy, then I would. But I don't know. I haven't gotten to that point of finding a printer I could do that with.
That disintegrates after 20 years or whatnot.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of crumble a little bit. But yeah, it's a good size. Larry Reed at the Fantagraphics store talked about how certain books have, sell really well if their price point's low and they're like a small little thing. People are way more willing to just kind of pick it up. It's like impulsive buys, maybe, I don't know. But I thought that would be, that kind of ties in. It's like, well, all right, we'll make it small, not make a big thing that you got to carry around and it's heavy or whatnot, and nice and handy.
I think what I also appreciate is the fact that when I first laid eyes on the hard copy of this, it did remind me of paperbacks from the 70s on the turnstiles, on the turn rack at a grocery store, particularly the way you painted the cover with and we've got this the chalk or pastel texturing and the font, the logo font. It's like, yeah, that looks like something that I would grab and mom and go, no.
It's very evocative of those old pulp.
Moms should be stopping their kids from reading this one, but no, that's absolutely the inspiration. I went through, bring up Goodwill or, Valley Village. I went through and just photographed the backs of books to get that, to get this look. I was like, it's a culmination of different things, or I saw styles like, oh yeah, okay, I like how they did this. In interior pages and how they did the contents or whatever, all that stuff is really important. I wanted to take the essence of all these paperbacks and people's memories. Like, oh yeah, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I mean, the covers are inspired by Mexican pulp novels. I found a book that Feral House released, and just the way they juxtapositioned like the big head in the back and like the lighting and the gouache, like they're a little rough, but that's about what I wanted to go for. I think that was as good as I could get.
So do you have any notion of where you, can you give us any tidbits of where you want to go next with the story?
On the one hand, I did say I didn't like origin things. I don't know. There might be, stuff needs to be revealed. I mean, it's kind of how it goes, but I don't want to do like, previously on or back in the day. So I think we're going to find out like kind of how she is the way she is. Now that, she's an assassin or a hired gun, so she works for somebody. Those people have people, there's different organizations. I take a lot of influence from James Bond movies or like Bourne Identity kind of stuff. There's really great assassins that's follow a day in the life. But this chick also happens to be a stoner and a vampire.
Which kind of just slows down the narrative a little bit.
Get into like who she's working for, who's after her. The major themes throughout this whole book is monster hunting, monster hunting, monster. Like who's the monster? Mm-hmm. You might be hunted next. There's someone above you. It's just kind of how life goes, but make it with fangs instead.
So you recently did a launch party, a virtual launch party with Kelly Froh and the gang at Short Run. How did that go?
Oh, that was great. I gotta hand it to Kelly for asking me to partake in that. She knew that, as she keeps an eye on so much of the Seattle comics industry, or internationally, whatnot. She saw that I was doing a thing, asked me to be a part of it. I was nervous because I've never done much of this video stuff. But my girlfriend and I set up where we tried to do some like a pseudo infomercial. So less of an interview or talking with people. I saw some like Home Shopping Network kind of stuff, and I thought that'd be kind of fun to do. There's an amazing piece of Home Shopping Network history on YouTube right now, and it's with Todd McFarlane, and he's selling us like a box of Spawn, and he's in there drawing, he's answering phone calls by kids. It's great. So I'm going to rip off all that text and stuff around the framing. I'm going to, reshare the video with all that stuff kind of added.
Cool.
I like those. I like that authenticity of those weird retro things and kind of just bring people back.
I wonder what kind of regrets the industry will have in days gone by. It's like, those guys took a lot of risks and said, this isn't silly. We're going to sell product. And, especially, Todd McFarlane and company, they knew no shame. So they kind of set a different standard of expectation for how you sell comic books. And before we started this call, you and I were talking about how marketing your own work is an art in and of itself. And it's a whole new thing you got to learn beyond being, building your confidence as a creator and a storyteller. What have you learned about marketing your own work in the last, at least since the start of the pandemic?
Yeah, well, it doesn't really show too much, but I've been, self-publishing little zines or comics since I was like 15 years old. And that was back in the 90s. And so, back then it was kind of easy because I was in a small town that had 2 comic shops, which was a lot. But one shop would actually let me sell my stuff on the shelf next to the big 2 and stuff. And it would sell. So it'd be like, oh, well, you just show up, you make this stuff. I've come, now I'm 40 something and seeing how things go, especially how rapidly it's increasing in weird ways on the internet. But like, you can't just show up anymore. You can't just make a comic and expect it to sell, expect a fan base, expect them to, you've got to do more. You've got to make it. You've got to promote it. You got to talk about it like it's your favorite thing. You got to need this thing. It's like, it's work. And, that's a lot. It's something that, I grew out of being like a super shy introvert kind of person into someone who's now on a podcast, video or whatever, or like approaching people and talking to them about, hey, what about this and this and that? It's a lot of work and it's hard and not many people have it in them. So I think I've learned things about myself and how to actually get past, those barriers or that fear. But yeah, it's something I'd encourage other people to try to investigate, because it's going to take more than just posting your stuff on Instagram.
Yeah, it is super hard. There is so much content out today, and with the democratization of creator tools, like you're talking about, like people with a phone can make videos. People with lower level or entry level laptop can have a whole publishing suite at their fingertips. It's how do you get through to your reader? And yeah, it's a never-ending battle.
Yeah, I think knowing your reader or having some vague idea of an audience would be really helpful, because I believe in limits, or like, give me constraints. The open blank page is frightening because it's limitless ultimately. I mean, not that I can do everything I want, but like, there's too much possibilities. So limit it. Give me a deadline. I want people with long hair. I listen to metal. I want people who like vampires. I want, so you kind of put it into these categories, and then you aim at that really, really hard. And you try to get to that one thing that's like, these people like this stuff, go at them. Then it's going to spread out like most things do. I mean, I believe in fractals, and I believe in fractality of life. And I think that there are patterns that, you come up, you start here and it goes big, it's going to branch off. There's going to be more, and it's collective.
The output of one event becomes the input of another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Side note, I've been working on a Panel Jumper episode about Alan Moore's Big Numbers, which is incomplete magnum opus, which is essentially about chaos in reality and fractals. And so, sorry, you touched the chord there, friend. You touched the chord, and Ben, bless his heart, finally made his first swing at my oversized first draft. So we'll see what's going to happen with that.
Yeah, Big Numbers is Alan Moore's unfinished oeuvre. The Big Number Panel Jumper episode is Cole Hornaday's finished oeuvre. Just needs to be cut down a bit.
Yeah, it needs some trimming, but we'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah.
Let's go back in the Wayback Machine a half a second. Let's go back before times, before the pandemic, before our lives kind of became frozen, cut off, and in an ongoing caesura. So last time we talked to you was just after the Eisner Award nomination for your contribution to Mad Magazine. I want to know a little bit about how that, in the bigger picture, how that impacted your life, as a creator and a storyteller, and what did it do or didn't do for your confidence?
Yeah, that's a big question.
Oh, I should have given it to you in advance. I apologize.
Oh, no. I sort of expected it, because you kind of hinted at something like this. But yeah, it's been wild. It has given me, quite a bit of confidence, especially once, I kind of broke through and was able to do more than that one piece for Matt. So I did, I think 4, 5 at the most. And another one of the final issues where they had original content from freelancers. I had another big 2-page spread that was the Dr. Seuss spinoff of environmental stuff, and so I had to recreate Dr. Seuss, and that was a whole nother bag outside of the Erigori thing, but with that being so well accepted that I had the confidence, okay, I can do this. I can nail Dr. Seuss too. Let's try that. And I had to do him twice for Mad. But yeah, it changed a lot of things. I mean, to get kind of, deep about it, like once that happened, it checked off a bunch of things that I didn't think I was going to get to, at least this soon, or, maybe never. I got public recognition, but my words are in the New York Times somewhere. There's like lots of that kind of stuff going on. So these are things like, as an artist, your ideals are like, oh yeah, you want to get here, you want to be at this point, you want to talk to these people. And so I got to those things, and then I actually was I was offered quite a bit of money for the original art from a big museum.
Whoa.
So I sold that.
Nice.
So my art's been purchased and is in a museum now. You know, it's those are like big checks. And you know, before that, even like the most, you know, the really intense one is like the emotional impact my art had.
Mm-hmm.
You know, creating that work, whether it was just because someone was, you know, nostalgic forever gory and they felt a big connection and, you know, felt I did a good job, or just like the impact of Matt Cohen's words and how it put together and like reached people and caused people to cry. I mean, back in my early 20s, being an artist growing up, I'm like, oh man, I want anyone to react. You know, if someone like threw up because they saw a piece, I would know that I did something, you know,
I made somebody feel.
Yeah. Not just like scoff. But yeah, so like all these things have been checked off, and you know, it's kind of wild. But I can't stop. I mean, I pushed myself even further with a Fang than I thought I was going to go. Like, it took 4 years. There were things like Mad and going to conventions and whatever that got in the way in a like 40-hour week job. But I'm glad I didn't get it out sooner, because without all that experience, with all that like time on the table, it wouldn't have been as good. Right. And experience and learning about stuff and like how to phrase things better. That's like, it was really well rounded. So yeah, it's kind of an intense situation to kind of go through, especially in like my 40s or whatever, midlife crisis time or something. Identity is like, what? Yeah.
So how has it been creating during the pandemic for you? What's that been like for you?
Well, I'm fortunate that the pandemic didn't really upset my life at all. In like, I still have my, my job, my main money maker, 40 hours a week, still working at the warehouse, getting books out, because that increased. So I had to be there all the time. And so the only thing that really changed was like the social aspect of going out. My girlfriend and I were pretty social before, going to parties, and she used to host shows and whatnot. So we'd do that. So that kind of died off, but there was always something to do. I couldn't, I was working on a board game. I've designed a tabletop card game through the pandemic. I did some other freelance work for Airbnb, which unfortunately didn't open before the pandemic, and I don't know if they're going to now, but good luck to them. So yeah, I was just working on other freelance things to kind of keep things going. And, I felt jealous of people who had a lot of time in their hands, and they had all that, like, I'm alone and I have too much time on my hands. Like, oh, right. Give me some. I got something to do with that. Like, give me some of this, being solitary. Oh yeah, that'd be great. So, but grass is greener. As I talk to people, they're like, I hated it. I just needed to get out, and I'd rather have my job. And it's like,
I think it depends on the nature of your personality. I'm an extroverted introvert, and I miss my friends. Theater life, that was my outlet for interacting with the community, creating, collaborating. We haven't been able to produce a live show or create a web series for a whole year, episode of the web series for a whole year. So that was very hard. But, for my part, I've had a lot of time to read and write and research and do things on my own terms. So, there was a meme that was going around. It was like, you really need to check in on your extrovert friends. This is a really terrible time for them. I'm like, that's funny, but I don't get it in its entirety, because I'm okay over here. I got the cat, I got the books, I got the TV, so yeah, but I get the fact that it has been very, very painful for a lot of people. And I get that. So I was just kind of curious of how you were creating in this space. And if there's anything that's come up that's inspired you within the confines of being in the pandemic. But it doesn't sound like your regular live-a-day life has radically changed like mine has or Ben has.
No, the one thing that has changed as far as the social interaction, though, that is greatly missed is the monthly mini comic night that I used to host at the Cafe Racer, the Spoon mini comics.
Right.
That was a monthly thing that I would put together, the zine made up of artwork that was created the month prior, and then hand out that zine, collect more art, hand out a next zine next month, over and over, and see these same people or see brand new people. I would, I could get between 40 and 60 people in a night come through, hand off artwork, introduce themselves, or, we chat, catch up about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's gone.
Yeah.
And the racer doesn't exist in that, in that situation anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a big drought. I mean, there's a bit of like relief. It's like, oh, okay, I don't need to do this anymore. I can use this time for something else. But man, the networking, or that's a bad word, but like the more of just like the interaction with the community is gone. And that's like, man, really miss that. And it's not the same online.
Yeah.
I've been on Discord. I've, chatted with a couple of people, or like, it's just, there's something totally different. I don't think it could be done in this video sort of aspect either. And people have tried, and I got to be close to that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Interact with people.
I think that's understated in terms of creators. Like, you, if you're not an artist, you think of an artist as like this solo person at home going, I'm creating, or like painting or whatever, or writing by them. Some person locking themselves in a room and writing all day and ignoring their family. But a lot of it happens in the community, right? This thing that Cole and I started happened because I just cornered him after a play one day. And it's just one of those things that people, like you said, people need that connection, need that interaction, not just to maintain themselves as like a human being, but also to come up with new ideas.
Yeah, collaboration is key. I like collaborating with people. It's, Punch to Kill 3 is on the docket next. And that's, been working a lot with Kevin and Will, the writers, the creators. And they got their things they're working on, but it's like, there hasn't been a whole lot of that. Thing with Dune was amazing because there were no themes, and the title had nothing to do with, the book or the movie or anything. It was just Dune.
Mm-hmm.
But man, there were times where laying it out and seeing all these different pages and realized there was a theme somehow. I could kind of lay out the book in some sort of fashion where, like a snake. It's like, okay, there's a lot of dark stuff. There's a little funny stuff. Break it up. But yeah, that was like the magic of just having a group of people there in a night create work. I mean, there's nothing else like that. A monthly anthology of 40 to 60 people doing stuff within 5 hours.
Right. Yeah, that you kind of jumped to the next question I had for you, was the status of the next Punch to Kill. So is that, did the process collaborating with Kevin and Will on that, did that get sort of hung up with the pandemic, or is it still kind of following the course it had when he started on the latest issue?
It's kind of stayed its course since I was, I got backlogged with a bunch of other stuff, working on the Fang. Didn't have much time to actually work on Punch to Kill, so that was another one where we were just like spending time when we did, like if we were just talking or whatnot. It was kind of coming up with ideas. Let's try this, let's try that, and Kevin just shooting ideas over. So I do wish we could have sat down over beers and talked everything out. And, but it's been kind of all right. I think we can work well in that situation. So,
so in the perfect pony world, Mark, in the perfect pony world, where you are connected with a community of puppet makers, fabricators, and puppeteers, what are your thoughts on possibly producing a puppet stage adaptation of the Fang?
That'd be hilarious. That'd be amazing.
What would you think about that? Do you think that would be fun?
Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind, like the thing I could most probably relate to is Manos, the Hands of Felt, that I saw years ago at the Annex. And that was, I knew one of the puppeteers too. So I got to see, him creating stuff and going through it. And it's like, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we are very well acquainted with all those folks.
Nice.
Particularly Rachel Jackson and her husband Bob, who came up with the concept in the first place. And then if you have the patience, you can paw your way back to the old Perfectly Bound podcast episodes where we actually had a whole come together moment with the director Tanya Tomic who directed Manos Returns, and Jackie Ray Naaman Jones on the wire from Oregon. She played the original Debbie in the original Manos.
Wow.
Yeah. That you already tapped into that scary part of my brain where I went. I didn't have to give you any crucial guidance. We worked with Rachel on numerous projects, a Howard the Duck project, which inspired her to create the first Panel Jumper spinoff, which is called Jose and the Hawk. Is a police procedural with a puppet and a human and puppets and humans, and it's hysterical.
So we're very familiar with the puppet community.
Yeah,
but I think
that's a brag thing, but
I think the Fang is really is cut out for some sort of live action puppetry, if not like a translation of the story, then at least some sort of like marketing vehicle to like get, because the Fang, what I love about the main character is that she's so cleanly drawn yet very expressive. So I think even just that some sort of like live action puppety to do marketing for that would be fantastic.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be super fun because that's the fun thing about, again, I guess it's sort of limitations, is like I have to imagine her having these facial features that are Muppet-esque, and how, and just watching how they've done the Muppets and how to angle them and whatnot, it like gives different emotions and give different perspectives. This is going to be really creepy to see. But I wanted to have some sort of physical thing in case I got hung up on shadows or something like that. But it's incomplete, so I'll say that. But there's a little.
Oh yes, that's marvelous. That is absolutely marvelous.
But
did you make that?
Yeah, I sculpted that.
Nice.
But yeah, because I just wanted. There's just certain angles, and I unless I had a count puppet, I don't, I'd have to figure those kind of things out, and that's been kind of fun.
Now, I don't know if the Jim Henson Company has been very, like, if they are cracking down on IP, but they are owned by Disney now, who are very famously protective of their IP. Are you worried at all about somebody finding the Fang and somebody from Disney saying, look, dude, this is too close to our stuff?
I can see it, but I think, like how I described earlier, that if you did that, then you got to go. I hope that they go after everybody. They need to go after Tezuka then, and be like, sorry, your stuff looks a little too much like Disney. I mean, there's so much stuff that people kind of like mimic or kind of see and kind of like play with their own things. I'm just a natural born mimic of some sort. Like I pick up people's phrases, the way of speaking. I get all these ideas, and also just the way I draw and how I create art is based on like, oh, I got to create this. Now I can use it. It's sort of like I can go this far and see what the tools they used or whatever else. Now I understand it. Now I can put that in my toolbox.
Right.
So, I mean, that's how I would argue against it. I think it would be kind of funny. But also I'd maybe want to strike up a deal with them. Like, well,
would that be stop? Yeah, well, like, would that be a legit feather in your cap if you got a cease and desist letter from Disney? You'd be like, Disney knows who I am.
Yeah, of course, that's always the thing. Like if you're doing graffiti or if you're doing any sort of thing and you get a cease and desist, it's a little punk pride right there. Like, yeah, you saw it. It was the story of like the air pirates. Like, they might not have even gotten in trouble if the guy didn't leave copies on the table for Disney executives to see. So
Have you read the book, the Pirates and the Mouse?
I've read about half of it, so I know that much.
Actually, believe it or not, I'm so glad you brought that up because it was a pandemic read. It was an early pandemic read. Wow. It's been on my to-be-read shelf. For those not familiar, back in kind of the early days of the underground movement, the Bay Area underground comics movement, this collective, and I'm sorry, Mark, I can't think of the fellow who headed the collective right off the bat. His name will come to me.
Can't either. I could grab the book, but
I'll look it up. But yeah, they started doing these. Initially, they were just kind of pornographic Disney comics. I don't think they really got into like valuable social satire until the second issue. Before they were just doing a lot of psychedelics, a lot of drugs, living in a warehouse owned by Francis Ford Coppola, partying, and then they're drawing comics on the side and challenging the status quo via Disney. And it was one of the first big Disney IP lawsuits where they were like, "You can't touch the mouse. The mouse is untouchable," and it drug on for 20 years.
Oh,
it was. I mean, I'm asking, not telling.
Yeah. Oh, I don't recall. I know it did go on for a long time.
Yeah,
but,
it was excruciatingly long and ridiculous time. And I do recommend the book, just so you've got in your back pocket the understanding of what happens when you challenge something as monolithic as the mouse. And this is in the early 70s. Disney wasn't half as the monolithic organization that they are now. I got to tell you though, I lost patience with the whole thing. I lost patience with the whole culture. I'm like, because at some point I'm like, you're kind of just doing this on a lark. You're doing it to kick the elephant in the ass, and the elephant is like doesn't really care ultimately because it's going to stomp on your little ass at some point and just wipe you off its little foot. It's big foot. So I don't really know what was accomplished, but I think it's worthy of paying attention to that little moment in history, just where underground comic books and challenging IP is concerned. So.
Oh yeah, I think that book. Bringing up Larry Reed again, we just had stories because we brought up like what was the Great Sky Falls or something like that. It was like a festival, music festival, a bunch of hippies. The Grateful Dead were there. Mm-hmm. Hell's Angels, all that stuff was going on, and this is like north of here, in Washington. And that's like, now I have context, I haven't been to major festivals, but I've seen enough. I know about festival life, I know about how they're just, parking lots full of drugs and whatnot. It's like a big thing that was happening at around comics. It's like this whole amazing culture happening there. And again, with the fractals, it kind of feels like this is the sort of things that's happening right now.
Sure.
I mean, there's a lot of counterculture. There's a lot of drug positivity. There's a lot of openness towards it. There's a lot of the sexual revolution, coming back. Comics being underground and being specific to a, subculture or whatnot. It's kind of coming back. So that book is kind of like fancy and, or more relevant than other times maybe.
So the book that we're talking about is called The Pirates and the Mouse, Disney's War Against the Underground. It was written by Bob Levin, published back in 2003 by whom? Fantagraphics. And it's the organization, the collective that perpetrated all this was a group put together by a gentleman named Dan O'Neill, and the Air Pirates was, of course, named after the Air Pirates comics of Mickey Mouse. Was the name of that group. So, what I would love? I mean, here's one of the downsides of living in my little pandemic bubble and reading and whatnot is I don't get a chance to like sit in a bar and chit chat and get other people's feedback on things. So, anybody within the sound of my voice, if you had an opportunity to read the book, or if you're thinking about reading the book, please read the book. Let's talk about the book. I would love to talk about this book. And we'll put that onus on you, Marc J Palm. You need to finish reading the book so we can talk about
Panel Jumper Book Club.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad idea, really.
Yeah. So tell us about what other plans you have to better promote weekend at Medusa's. So you had the rollout with the short run. You've got other plans, and how can people find your book?
Okay. So I'd seen other creators really do a mathematical job of releasing stuff. I mean, seeing someone do a Kickstarter and have that go off super well, it was pretty inspiring, but also realizing how much work was involved in creating that and timing it and getting all the I don't know if I can do a Kickstarter right now. I don't know if I have it in me because of the physical wear it would probably take. I already pack boxes of books 40 hours a week. But it's gonna, so I had to kind of figure out, okay, I want to release it on this date because I got the deadline of the short run thing. That's to figure out this time, figure out when to do it. Now I have to release this. So I had to get all my ducks in order as far as it's on Etsy. You can search, it's Etsy/shop Swell Zombie is in there. It's not my name. But that's where you can find the Fang, 1, 2, Punch to Kill, a bunch of zines and stickers. But I wanted that to roll out on the same day as the release thing to kind of, I don't know. I mean, I miss the times of Intruder when we have, parties at comic shops to be like, hey, it's a free paper, but come and hang out and talk to us about it and pick it up and we got free beer or whatever. So I kind of felt like I needed to do something like that. And also, social media, you want to push, I could just release it and said, hey, it's on Lulu, you can go buy it. And they could or they couldn't. But if I make enough of a deal about it and kind of, remind people, that was kind of a thing, another fear to get over is annoying people with hey, I'm doing this thing. Kevin Clark put it best when he said that, you can just ignore somebody's post if they're talking about their thing. Just keep scrolling like you'd scroll past something crappy. You don't have to give it the all the time and whatever, but if you're annoyed by this advertising constantly, I mean, think about it. Coca-Cola still advertises.
Even though
everybody knows Coca-Cola.
Right, that's right.
But they still have to advertise.
Yep.
To keep it in the mind's eye. You might be seeing it 50 times, but someone might see it once.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. So you got to hammer it into people. So with social media stuff I've been doing, I'm going to release that video, like I said, as a home shopping network type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That has reading in it with my girlfriend, and the inspiration for the hashtag is Megan Angus, a local witch and astrologist and tarot reader, and she's fantastic.
Great.
So she did the voice of the hashtag, and Rachel did the voice of the Fang and the Weed Witch, and so that's in that little video. I'm trying to just do this kind of stuff, make a little trailer, which is inspired by Something Weird video, which I'm very fond of exploitation aesthetics. So yeah, soon, this has been a really great opportunity. I appreciate this. I'm going to possibly be on another podcast. Someone in Portland hit me up after finding my books down there at Comics Cave PDX. They hit it up and they said that they want to do a piece on me in their horror zine.
Excellent.
Nice.
I asked for a PDF copy, just kind of see what they have. And he's like, nope, I don't believe in it. It's not it goes against my zine religion, so I'll mail you a copy. And I love that. Yeah, that's great. It's going to be all hand done. And that's called The Stapled Spine, which I think is a great title for a zine. So yeah, I'm going to do, I've got one plug that I wanted to do.
Go for it.
Just as far as what I've also been doing through the pandemic is I found an amazing creator. Tons of people have found this kid, but I turned up Dynamite Diva, self-published out of Canada. This particular one was by the Strangers Fanzine, which has been a terrific zine. This one covers Tom Neely and Keenan Marshall Keller. But this is super underground zine stuff. They're into all sorts of these up and coming people. They're going to do, I've sent them review copies, but that character, Dynamite Diva, was created by Jasper Juvenile. And this kid is only 20 years old. He's blown everyone's mind, and I was able to do an interview with him.
Marvelous.
And published in Bubbles. This one's number 8 or number 9.
Mark, where can people find these?
Bubbles, you can find it at bubbles.com, I believe.
Okay.
Also, a lot of comic shops are carrying it. He's got great distribution. But yeah, I was able to pull off a Fang advertisement.
Perfect.
So, but yeah, that's been a great thing to kind of like tap into writing and that whole connecting to a community. Now the internet's a bigger community, so I saw that kid and I wanted to like spread the wealth or get people to know about them. And
no, that's marvelous. Hey, Ben Laurance, did we have anybody in the chat who has questions for Mr. Palm?
Nope, but I did look up the Fang Volume 2 on Etsy, and it's got a bestseller tag on it. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, boy, I got a bunch of those out. Very encouraged. Working on this thing for so long, you get so close to it with something that's like a Muppet vampire woman who is into oral sex and werewolves and and assassins. Like, is this just a really weird joke that I think is funny? I hope people get into this, and so it's been encouraging. A lot of retailers picked it up too. That's been awesome. I'm all over the map now.
Cool.
So yeah, that feels amazing.
Cool. All right.
Well, go with that? I don't know.
Well, we look forward to the Fang Volume 3 whenever that comes out. I know you're. I don't know if you've started working on it yet, but if you are planning on it, if you're not working on it, we look forward for it. Yeah.
Please send us all your video marketing material so we can flog it on the Panel Jumper.
That'd be great.
We're here for it. Yeah. So, to lead us out, tell us what your hopes and dreams and plans are for the next phase of your creative life.
Whew.
It's not a small question.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It'll kill 15.
Sorry, well, I can drag this out. Geez, I got so. Oh, I also participated in this local newspaper. That's like the third generation of Intruder, called Scarf with 3 Fs. I did a page in that. Their wrestling issue, and I brought back my a comic character I created in the 90s when I was in high school, the Ant. He's a questionable midget wrestler. Some people claim that he's too tall, something he's not tall. He's like, I'm within regulation, so there's all this kind of arguments. And I worked on that with my coworker Darren Chase. He's really into wrestling. He got me into like the history of wrestling. But so that was in Scarf. In the upcoming Scarf in October, I'm going to be doing a 2-page spread in their vampire themed issue, so which is kind of perfect. And so there probably going to be some Fang there. So that'll probably be the next thing to kind of catch a Fang like. But yeah, with this, I don't know. I want to, obviously going to keep doing comics and keep self-publishing as long as I can. If I get a better deal, then I'll go for it. But yeah, I don't know. There's a part of me that misses the editorial kind of bits of things, like putting together Dune or putting together Intruder.
Mm-hmm.
If I had an opportunity to be an editor and choose things and art direct, and that'd be a nice thing to kind of do. I think I'm good at pulling things out and finding people. And yeah, just kind of doing that. And like, that wouldn't be a bad thing in my 20-year goal, I guess.
Yeah.
If comics and editing still exist by then.
Love it.
I'm sure they will. Mark, thank you so much for joining us today. If people want to search out your stuff, where's a good place to go to find you?
I'm all Instagram's great. I post there constantly. My Etsy store is a great place to find any sort of zines. I also have a Patreon, and there I've got works in progress stuff. I do, it's like the fan group, or it's the fan club of like the Fang and Punch to Kill. So I try to treat it as like, hey, you're the first people to see this. So here's the video, here's a PDF, here's a new zine, and I mail them out to people, and really try to focus on that kind of thing. And that's at Patreon, Marc Palm. I think that I forget the website. I don't speak HTTP, but I can give you guys the links.
Yeah, please do.
But yeah, those are the kind of places. But I'm all over the internet, so if you just search my name, you can find some weird shit out there.
All right.
Tumblr is a good place.
Just so everybody knows, it's Marc with a C and a J and a Palm.
And it's crammed backwards.
I hadn't thought of that. All righty. Well, that's it for us. Marc, thank you for joining us. Cole, good to see you.
Always good
Nice
to
to see you guys.
All right. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.